Hello, welcome back. Today we will be discussing vulnerability assessment. In our previous videos, we'll be talking about enumerations, how to perform so many enumerations from FTP, HTTP, SSH. If you go through our videos, you will see them there. And moving forward, we'll talk about vulnerability assessment. And we will focus on understanding vulnerabilities. If we don't understand vulnerabilities, our enumeration will actually be a waste. The focus of our enumeration will not be known as a penetration tester, as a risk manager, or server party it is. So we move. These are our outlines of what we'll be talking about today. We'll talk about vulnerabilities, understanding vulnerability assessment, the purpose, the scopes, processes, and all. So many things we'll be discussing today, and let's dive in. What is a vulnerability? It's actually, you don't miss a vulnerability with an attack. A vulnerability can only become an attack, so to say, if it is being exploited by cyber criminals to gain access, by unauthorized persons to gain access, whatever it is the vulnerability is all about, until it is exploited, or it becomes um, escalated and so bad. So while you wait until it is being exploited, you have to know how to mitigate it, the weakness. You have to know how to stop the malicious code from running. You have to be very careful from not installing malware into your system. These are the things we need to understand and to be able to have knowledge about. If you don't have knowledge about something, you might not know how it works. So what do we do as penetration tester or risk manager? You assess the vulnerabilities. We need to review these weaknesses. What are the level of risk? What are these vulnerabilities going to lead to? There are some vulnerabilities that are very low. There are some vulnerabilities that are at very, very high risk. Very, very high risk. So you need to understand the vulnerability, and you need to know how to recommend remediations or mitigations whenever it's needed. What's the essence of finding a vulnerability when you can actually remediate, when you can actually mitigate it or give advice or how to prevent it from being exploited? So you do the assessment, you do the remediation, a lot. What is this? What is the purpose of this assessment? All we're talking about. The purpose of the assessment is actually be able to know the weaknesses that is being found around your software, around your mobile app, around your web applications. You know, what what should be done, what should we remediate. This assessment is being focused on the whole scope of the CIA by ensuring that see the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of your product is not being compromised. And this is the purpose of why an organization is needed to perform or to go through vulnerability assessment. So that the steps you take, you need to identify the vulnerabilities. Okay, let's go into a practical example of how does this work? How do you identify vulnerabilities? There are bodies that have come together to be able to put CVE, be able to put vulnerabilities together, known vulnerabilities for a very long time, since 1999 or thereabout. I've put them together as documentation where you can actually read on what is the description of these vulnerabilities. This is a vulnerability with its ID because the ID is very, very important when it comes to understanding vulnerability. Just like when you say when you just got a TV, right? You have to plug it. You have to bring out the manual. You have to, this recent days TV comes with so many complexities, so many advancements. So, for example, you just get the charger, you try and plug it. Where should I fix this? This is what CVE is doing for us. What is the description of this vulnerability being found? How severe this vulnerability is? How, on a scale of 1 to 10, how can this be a danger to my web application? How can this be a danger to my mobile application? Or is it going to affect my database in real time? The devices that are on my network, how can they respond to this vulnerability? Or is it a product-based vulnerability, or is it a network-based vulnerability? Like, you can say, for example, and say Cisco routers are vulnerable to a particular CVE. So when you get the device, you need to know how to mitigate that particular vulnerability. So over time, this manufacturer or maybe developer or the business owner, over time they release patches to mitigate all these vulnerability. These are the primary reasons of patches in your network or in your mobile applications or web applications, whatever the case may be. So they can see this. And also we have another one of vulnerability search. We have the IDs of vulnerabilities. This is 2023. And these are the ratings of these are the ratings of this vulnerability. There are some vulnerabilities that come with a very, very low risk. You don't really need to worry about them, though they might be sitting on your network as a vulnerability. But do you actually need to worry about them? Well, maybe not. But when you're seeing in the rate on the rate of on the scale of 1 to 10, vulnerability is 7. You should know it is in very, very high risk. You need to really work on that. You need to really put your time to find remediations to such vulnerabilities. And that is why it is very important to be able to make to do your research on different vulnerabilities that might be related. You need to focus your scope on vulnerabilities that are related to what you do. Maybe you're a financial institution or maybe a school. You need to focus on vulnerabilities that are related to your nature, and that is how it goes. So when you have been able to identify vulnerability, you analyze it. Then you know the risk, you have to assess the risk, what is the risk value of this vulnerability. Then you move to how to remediate. So just like what I showed you the other time, we have different kind of vulnerability. Website, this is vulnerabilitydetails.com, the vulnerability, which is the CVE that is it is being monitored and documented by the Homeland United States, the United States Homeland Security, and also we have the military attack, which can be able to understand the piece of your attackers that That is by the way though. But maybe how a vulnerability can be exploited in a way. That's how it goes. But what is 0 day? Some of us could have been in the year listening or one or the other came across what a 0 day is all about. So basically 0 day, yeah. 0 day. No, this is ITs. 0 day is actually when a vulnerability is discovered. I know there is a vulnerability. I know there is a door in my house. I don't know how to put a lock on this door. I don't know how to put an access control on this door. But I know there is a door that leads to millions of naira in my house. For example, I'm not saying I have a million naira at home though. So that is 0 day. And you need to be very fast. You need to find a way to mitigate it, to change the story from being a 0 day to a normal vulnerability that we all know, because it could be very dangerous. I think there was a time Microsoft had 0 day vulnerability on Microsoft Word, I guess. So different kind of, over immediately when they start to work on this project, then they need to send in patches to be able to mitigate the 0 day. So that is how it's works. You need to be very careful about 0 day attacks. Once vulnerability is a 0 day, and fortunately or unfortunately on the other side, this vulnerability is being exploited, then it might be a very fatal and crazy experience. Yeah, can really be. So how do you find vulnerabilities? We were talking about enumeration earlier in our previous videos. So when you scan from your networks on your database, you could see how vulnerable they can be to, when you start to act like an adversary. For example, that these vulnerabilities are not only on the basis of network assets, it can also be on physical security. What if your security man is vulnerable to, like, say, for example, gift? Once you gift this gift man, it leads you to where it should not, or you got a device, an access control, and you left it on a default. It is very vulnerable to so many things. So you need to understand the assets you are dealing with. You understand the products you are using on your network, products you are using in your environment generally. When you understand this product, then you will be able to know the vulnerabilities that are accompanying such product. And you have to do a whole lot of researches. You have to research and understand, keep researching and researching here. Surface testing, you can act as an adversary. Maybe let's say I have a whole project to deliver a mobile application that deals with receiving and sending of money. What if I act like an adversary, send a payload, maybe an SQL injection payload on it, and what are the responses? Is it vulnerable to SQL injection? Is it vulnerable to voice command, or is it actually vulnerable to a remote code execution? You need to test it. You need to act like you are trying to put forth your own solution. So when you're able to act like like an adversary or like an attacker from the outside, then there are so many things you will be able to put an end to, so many vulnerabilities you will need to mitigate. So, having said that, we're able to understand our vulnerability, what is a vulnerability, how we need to understand our environment and related vulnerabilities. These are things we need to put our focus on. We just don't need to enumerate. In our scope, in our scope, this enumeration, during enumeration rather, is basically define vulnerabilities. Basically, to be able to put a be able to understand the flow of maybe our app, for example, our web application or mobile app, how vulnerability is. You need to know how to understand the risk on vulnerabilities that has been found. So as a penetration tester, when you do enumeration, have it in mind that your basic primary duty or reason for enumeration for being a pen tester is to find vulnerability and be able to find, also know how to remediate or mitigate these vulnerabilities. Thanks for watching. We'll see in our next video.